What I consider what I do as an entertainment attorney is just a combination of business law and intellectual property. So, with that being said, I wanted to go in and kind of explain how both of these sides work, but we're going to start with just one of them. So, in today's video, I'm going to discuss what business lawyers do. As a business lawyer, I am working very much with clients to, of course, build their businesses. But what does this look like in the more micro levels? So, I also kind of consider what I do to be brand development because it's the experience of building a company from nothing to sometimes a national business, sometimes an international business. So, the first place we always start with is just looking at the business structure. Sometimes people have this all together, and other times it's, they've built a business that is a multi-million dollar grossing business and they don't have a very good business structure and it creates a ton of problems. So this is this kind of thing that I talk with clients about. When we discuss the business structure, it's does it make sense for you to be a limited liability company right now? Do you have one? Have you set up an LLC to protect yourself personally as the owner or owners if there's multiple people in the business? Do you need a corporation? So even if you do have an LLC, sometimes it makes sense to convert to a corporation because you are doing a certain amount of revenue and so you can have tax benefits by becoming what's typically an S corporation. It might be a C corp at some point, depending again on the growth of the business. So having that conversation, really important. But the first place to start, especially for a lot of new business owners, is start an LLC. If you start a limited liability company, this is a liability shield around you so that you personally are not getting sued. Your personal assets are not being collected against. So it's a really important step, whether you have started the business, just recently, whether you have money coming in at all, do it and do it now. Now, the second thing that we usually jump into from the kind of business analysis are contracts, right? So, as business attorneys, we draft contracts, we negotiate contracts, and we review them. And I kind of laugh sometimes because I'll get this question of, do you do contract work? And I'm like, you don't even know how much contract work I do. Because at the end of the day, everything from the business side that you do as a business owner will be boiled down to a piece of paper. Every agreement that you decide on, every loan that you take out, every license that you give, everything has to be papered. So I live and die in contracts, in fact, as most business lawyers will. Now, there are other things like with intellectual property. Intellectual property with business is just kind of hand in hand, but they are different areas of law. We're talking about business regulations and compliance versus with IP. For example, I do a lot of work with trademarks as well as copyright. And so, for example, with trademarks and businesses, we're talking about your name. We're talking about your logo. We're talking about you as a source identifier. If you sell services or goods, how do people know that they are from your business? Well, it's because of your name and it's because of your logo. So, as you continue to build, your trademarks become one of the most important pieces of your brand. And also, to the extent that you want to maybe eventually sell your business are a very important piece of that. So we want to make sure we're registering your trademarks, which, by the way, for enforcement purposes, when you have your trademarks registered, it makes it very easy for me, for your business attorney, to go and get infringing pages on social media completely deleted. It's a lot harder when you have not actually registered your trademarks, and you want to do this at the federal level. On the other hand, your copyrights, right? The creative works themselves. So this would be things like, music or films, or if you are creating applications and you have certain technology and you have different codes, anything where you're putting your creative ideas into a tangible medium, that's what we're doing to protect via the copyright. All right. So collectively, we call that intellectual property, and it does include patents as well. But then another piece of kind of what I do as a business lawyer is employment related work, right? So at some point, it's probably you in the beginning building your business, doing all the things. I get that. I respect that. But as you continue to grow and you get more revenue, you bring on team members. And so you need to have contractor agreements, right? On one side, if you have contractors, or you have employment agreements if you have employees. Either way, you really need to have the relationship spelled out. But then we take it a step further, right? You want to have things like, policies in place. Do you have a sexual harassment policy for your business? Do you have a social media policy for your business? If you don't, that's okay. It's not the end of the world, but we kind of structure this so that you have the ironclad contracts that you need to protect your business and yourself, but then also the policies you start building on top of that, which makes you a really robust, not only company, but it helps you to really grow, right? And so a great example might be like, if you have policies or operations manuals, when you bring in new people, if you have everything already laid out, you don't have to repeat yourself as the business owner. You can have them go and read something or watch something. So these are the systems that we put into place, which cuts down on your time, which cut down on your costs. Something else that comes up quite a bit as a business attorney is litigation. If you're working with a good attorney and you have a problem that comes up, they're going to work to get it resolved and settled so you don't have to go to court. But if you do need to go to court, you want to have someone who knows your case, has worked with you, can represent you well. And so, for me, that's been an important part of what I do with my law firm is to be able to represent the client from the beginning of the representation, building the actual whatever it is, whatever the type of business that we're working on is. But then also, if there are disputes, being able to help the clients through that litigation. And then let's talk about exits, right? At some point, you might want to merge your business with another one. You might want to sell the business altogether. And that requires a ton of due diligence. That requires you to disclose financials and copies of contracts and to get contracts into place if you don't have them, non-disclosure agreements. It's an intensive process that ends up being very valuable because, again, we go back to the beginning of if someone ever becomes interested in acquiring what you have built, they're going to want to make sure that you have your copyrights and your trademarks and your contracts with all of your employees and your staff and your manuals and your procedures so that you have a business that can operate without you. Very important. But then as business attorneys, we help with crisis management. Things come up, right? Within the business, externally. I mean, there can be issues with services and products. And so really, collectively, as a business attorney, I do a lot within intellectual property, but it's about brand building and how do we make you money? When there are problems that come up, we're going to see what we can do to resolve them. But at the end of the day, it's about putting you in a position so you can make the most money as possible and to make your business a success. So if you do need help, contact Delgado Entertainment Law and our business attorneys will see how we can assist.